Welcome back, Caddy Corner, episode 36, right?
Yeah, 36.
Cool. I'm Austin.
I'm Caleb.
We're back again here, recording a podcast like we do every week. How's things?
They're good.
Sweet.
Yeah, how about you?
Pretty good.
That's good.
Yeah, no problem. So, I don't really know what to call this episode, to be honest.
I have no clue.
Okay. This episode is going to be pretty much about our inspirations / finding inspirations. On my notes, I have a where to look section. I have my personal inspirations, and then I have the impacts that inspiration has on your life.
Yeah.
Pretty much the same thing for you?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay,
kinda.
Cool. So we're just going to have a little fun, talk about inspirations for a little while on this podcast. Basically, the goal with this show is to break up the how-to monotony that you guys have been experiencing over the past however long.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll have a little bit of fun. But first things first, we have a new review. It is a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts from Mikey Walnuts. The review reads, for anyone 18 to 25, this show is perfect to gain a new perspective and strategies on how to be the best version of yourself with 2 exclamation marks. Sweet.
Mikey Walnuts.
Thank you, Mikey Walnuts, for your review on the Caddy Corner podcast.
Thanks a lot.
Also, everyone, like, comment, subscribe, rate the show, review the show, share it around with your family and friends. Caddy Corner to the moon. Caleb, take it away, bud.
Okay. So the first little thing I have on my notes here is where do I find inspiration? So,
Cool.
Basically, for me personally, I like to look everywhere for it. If it's the wall,
Got it.
find inspiration there somehow. Curtains. These are inspiring.
Yes.
You know, you just gotta keep an open mind. I do anyway, to try and to find inspiration everywhere that I could possibly find inspiration from. This is a quote from you, and I think that you said it perfectly. So I'm gonna quote you on this.
Okay.
Whenever you're talking to anybody, act like they're smarter than you, so that you can learn something from them, no matter if they're smarter than you or not. Just think that they are, so that you can learn something from them. That's huge. But
Yeah.
think about that with everything. This curtain is smarter than me.
Yes.
What can I learn from this?
Good point.
The wall is.
Yes.
What can I learn from the wall? So that's how I like to find my inspiration, and where I like to look. I look everywhere. But there are a couple places that are great for finding inspiration for myself personally, and one of those places is social media. Social media is a great place to find inspiration. Why, you may ask? I'm going to talk about it a little bit later.
Okay.
Another place that I like to find inspiration a lot is YouTube, which some people may argue is social media. I would not.
No, it's different. Definitely different.
That is my browser is YouTube usually.
Literally.
So I don't consider that social media at all. And I'll dig into that a little bit later as well. And I also like to find inspiration through music, which I'll dig into a little later.
Perfect.
Take it away.
Okay. So on my where to look section, I have content,
Mm-hmm.
which is basically like what you said with social media and YouTube. Podcasts are also big for me. I like to listen to people talk, and that is inspiring sometimes. For another reason that's on this where to look list, which is stories. If you listen, especially, I've been listening to a lot of Rogan recently, and so one of the best things about a podcast like that is you get to just hear perspectives from so many different people, so many different like walks of life and stuff. And they all have different stories about their experiences in those times and stuff like that. And what you realize is that people go through some serious stuff.
Yeah.
And you get to like hear about those stories, and that's inspiring to me. It always has been. Something that is also very inspiring for me is like changing of scenery. So whether that's traveling, which I'll talk about later, or also like I redid my room kind of over the pandemic, and also like this time-ish last year. That was really inspiring for me, especially like creatively, and it kind of pioneered a lot of my like productivity, hyper efficient focus in like my lifestyle now. So those are also inspiring. And then I also think something that's important to think about whenever you're looking for inspiration is that your aspiration can inspire you. So your aspiration is basically like your goals and what you want. And if you look on social media or whatever, you'll see those things that you want, and that kind of inspires you to like get after it a little bit. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later as well. So
Yeah. That's big stuff.
big stuff. Aspiration. Pretty similar to inspiration. It's only like a couple letters different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aspiration, inspiration.
Pretty close.
They are close.
Yeah.
They're very different.
Very different.
But very parallel.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. For the audio listeners, I did like chopstick arms.
Chopstick arms.
Chopstick arms.
Cool.
Yeah. Cool.
Do you know how to use chopsticks?
Yeah.
I don't.
Do you eat Asian food really?
No.
There you go.
Yeah. But if I do, I eat it with a fork.
Fair enough.
Usually.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough.
Yeah. So I don't really know where to go next here. I guess I'm just gonna dig into social media as a place where I find
Yes, do that.
inspiration. So social media, I think, is a great place to find inspiration, just because everyone uses it, especially if you're our age. Everyone uses social media, so that is a place where you can go and see basically what everyone is doing, and that is inspiring. Especially like if you have no clue what you want, to just see everything.
Yeah. It's helpful.
It helps a lot.
Yeah. It can also be bad, but it is helpful.
It could be bad.
From 0 to 1, it's very helpful.
Yeah. And another thing, you can find anything on social media. So if there's something specific that you want to know or to see or to hear, social media is a great place to find it. There are plenty of people on social media which their whole shtick is to inspire people. So if that's what you want, go find somebody like that.
It's literally so much of that.
And so that's a huge thing. And this kind of digs into both of these things, but it opens your eyes to new things. So there's like so much information to be taken in on social media on all platforms. But where my brain goes is Instagram. A lot of people don't use Instagram anymore. I do sometimes, but there's like so much on Instagram. There's so many different things, because Instagram is basically like TikTok, just 3 months late, basically.
Yeah.
But also like a ton of like images and a ton of people like sharing their stories and like all these things combined. So if you don't have, I'm going to say something crazy. If you don't have TikTok and you have Instagram, then like you're still seeing the things that people see on TikTok.
Yeah.
And then you also get more of like a personal relationship with said things through Instagram as well. So I think that is a place where you can definitely go to get your eyes open to new things.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. When it comes down to like content that you consume, we've talked a ton about that on the pod. We have an entire podcast dedicated to that. So if you're really interested in that, I'd recommend checking that out, because it's one of our best for sure. One that I think goes under the radar for when it comes to inspiration is like Pinterest.
Yeah.
I love Pinterest. And just because it's sort of like Instagram, but even more niche, you can very easily like pick out what you want to be kind of shoved in your face through the scrolling monotony of that. But what I really like about Pinterest as well is that a lot of the posts are like linked to blogs or linked to videos, and you can quickly like go and read the thing should you want to. Like inspiration definitely can come from elements like that. I personally really like TikTok for inspiration, because my For You page pretty much all the time is not like a distracting, get me away from the world that I'm trying to go after For You page. My For You page is generally pretty on the money. I wish that I had a good way to describe like the For You page that I exist on. But you remember that whole thing?
There's no way.
No, because I just don't know. I don't know what, but my For You page is pretty, like, it keeps me in the right headspace. And I've talked about this before, but sometimes whenever it will like dip away from that, I can notice like myself dipping away from whatever it is that I'm trying to work towards as well, which is kind of funny how that works.
Yeah.
But
especially because everyone says that social media is a bad thing.
Yeah.
And it's a distracting thing.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it totally can be.
Yeah. But also like what you say all the time is somebody's For You page can totally like describe how they are in real life.
It tells you so much about them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
TikTok knows you better than you know yourself.
That's a totally factual statement there. And
that's why I think that's always important too. But that's why I like TikTok personally for inspiration, because I'll watch TikToks. A lot of my TikTok recently has been like podcast clips, for example. Yeah. Like the motivating ones or whatever. And like those are inspiring for me, because like I literally will watch those sometimes and be like, all right, it's time to go do stuff, and I'll throw the phone down and get to work. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's how it's always been for me, though. Everybody's different. That's an important thing whenever you think about content too, because like I wrote content on my list. Content means anything. What does that mean, right? be specific for yourself what you find inspiring. If you find paintings inspiring, then figure it out, right? If you find books inspiring, then figure it out. If you find wildlife photography inspiring, then figure it out, right?
Yeah.
It's different for everybody. So that's probably my biggest piece of advice when it comes to content, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. I guess kind of piggybacking off content, where I find the most inspiration, I think, is most certainly YouTube.
I follow you there.
So me and you both are both big YouTube users. And what I do on YouTube mostly is if I have a question that I don't know the answer to, instead of going to Google, I will go to YouTube most of the time. If I'm bored and I need something to do, then I will turn on YouTube. If I'm editing a video, then I need some help. If I want an idea, then I will go to YouTube, which is where I find most of my inspiration for films that I will make. And so one YouTube channel that I go to all the time is this YouTube channel called Film Riot. You ever heard of them?
I think so. I'd know their logo if I saw it.
Yeah, they're so good. So they have literally everything on there. So they have tips for video editing and video making, short films and stuff. They also have behind the scenes videos from short films and stuff that they've made.
That's cool.
And they also take you behind the scenes of big movies. So they've done a couple Marvel movies and all this stuff. They have little cinematography classes that you can take, little short 5-minute here's what you should do if you're doing cinematography. They have special effects, how-tos, and then they have some do-it-yourself film tricks. So if you don't have all the cool gear, this is what you can do. It's so good.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And so one thing that I was just watching earlier today was oh my goodness, I'm trying to think of the word. An After Effects crash course.
Okay.
And it was just so good and so helpful.
Yeah.
And it just opens your eyes to so many new things, because these are not difficult things to do in After Effects, but there were things that will take your video to the completely next level, and it's I could literally do that today.
Yeah.
So it's just a place where I can go to just find new ideas and stuff to start working myself and challenging myself with. So I go there all the time for inspiration.
For when it comes to YouTube, for me, what I've always kind of done is I've looked more towards creators rather than the tutorial world.
Yeah.
Mostly because I've always kind of been like this, but especially since high school, I can kind of watch a YouTube video and think how did they shoot that, and kind of figure it out in my brain. Obviously, there's research that goes into that as well, but when it comes down to how do you do little bits and bobs, I've always taken it from creators. And so the niche that I stick to is the lifestyle niche which is the vlogger of the world. I just like how they use the camera. I think it's interesting. I like the narrative that I think is really cool about the lifestyle niche of YouTube, the vlogging niche, is that it's a story about nothing, and that to me is fascinating.
Yeah.
It's a story about nothing, and that's true. And so that's why I think it's really interesting, because it's how can you make your life look interesting through a piece of glass. Sounds like fun to me, right? So, for me, so this is funny too, because on my personal inspiration side, I have a creative inspiration side and then a lifestyle inspiration side. For me, like I said, I've always taken inspiration from the creative side of it, and I focus less. I always have a little bit less on the editing side of it and more sides on the filming aspect of it, and how can I. We've made videos together. I'm always the one who is putting the camera in the weird spots and hoping that it looks cool. That's just kind of been always the way that I've gone for it. So,
yeah.
Casey Neistat's a really good example. Recently, Kelly Wakasa, who is he's got 1.5 million ish subs. It's the way that he films, shoots his videos and stuff like that as well. But I think that what was interesting about your Film Riot take was the behind the scenes elements, because that's really interesting, because that can be definitely inspiring, especially for people like us, because you don't know what a film set looks like. There's no way for you to know unless somebody had a camera and was walking around, documenting the whole process. So that's super interesting. I think neglecting YouTube as a way of inspiration is crazy. I don't think people really do that. I think that we're kind of past that point in the world.
I do agree.
Yeah, but it's the same thing with every content. Well, It's the same thing with all content, where you need to just be particular about what you watch.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean all the time. You can watch Dance Moms every once in a while if you want, but understand that the content that you consume does have a very big impact on like your lifestyle, the way that your brain works, that kind of thing. So
Yeah, definitely.
be particular, because these platforms know you better than you know yourself. Even YouTube. YouTube does too.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
it's important to think about that kind of thing.
They all do.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is.
And lastly here, a place where I find inspiration the most is through music. So I wouldn't say that I'm very musically inclined, but I would say that I'm a little musically inclined.
Okay.
I play strings, and listening to music has always been like, I guess, a safe place
Sure.
for me. I love listening to music all the time, pretty much. Anytime I have the chance, I have like earbuds in. If I'm not listening to a podcast, then I'm listening to music.
What do you listen to more of? I'm just curious.
Music or podcasts? Probably podcasts.
Yeah.
Just because I make one of those.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
But music, it's usually music in the car, podcast at work.
Got it.
Just because I think podcasts make the day go by faster.
Definitely.
And so, but I've talked about this a little bit on the podcast before, but one thing that I'll do is if I hear a song, then I'll get inspired by the song and like come up with like a scene,
like a video
in my brain.
Yeah.
And like this is the song that's playing in the background, and like it's all subconsciously.
Yeah.
And usually I don't write it down.
Of course not.
But sometimes I do.
But you'll also remember it immediately.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I do that all the time. And I always, like, if me and my girlfriend in the car and I'm listening to a song, or like there's a song on the radio or something, and I get inspired by it, and then I'll come up with this idea in my head, and then I'll shoot it to her, you know, like right there, like picture the idea. And she's always like, that's so weird. Like, just listen to the song, you know? But it's like, I can't do that.
No.
I can't just listen. But like another thing too, like if I hear a song that sounds cool on guitar, then like I'll go home and I'll like learn it, you know? So like I get inspired by music that way too. Just because, like I said, music is just like a safe place for me.
Sure.
So if I'm getting like real stressed, like just picking on guitar, like will calm me down, more than I think anything else does usually.
Interesting.
So
I think that I, especially recently, have had the same effect with music and videos the same way that you have that. I do that same thing all the time, especially recently. Like, I don't know, just what I've been making recently video-wise has been a little bit more musically, like, driven.
Yeah, definitely.
And that is so much fun. Whenever you just, like, find a song that's perfect.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, when you listen to a song first and you're like, I'm going to shoot this for this video with this song. And it, like, works perfectly.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than that.
Right.
The last thing that I want to talk about here for where to look for inspiration is changing of scenery or traveling. So I think that we both probably have this. I don't actually know, but I assume under my creative inspirations is traveling. You never in your life, to the people out there who make videos or whatever, nothing is more inspiring than traveling.
Yeah,
being
that is
out
true.
being out of wherever you live all the time. There's nothing like it. I always, whenever I'm traveling anywhere, I always have my entire, like, whatever my in the field camera rig is always with me at all times, just because I'm creatively stimulated whenever I'm not at home, you know?
Yeah.
All the time. So I think it's important to get out of your kind of given space, and change of scenery doesn't mean fly 1,500 miles somewhere and exist.
Yeah.
Change of scenery just means get out of your room or get out of your house and exist in a space where it's not your everyday world. You know what I'm saying? We talked about this a little bit in the student podcast last week, which was like, don't just study in your room all the time. Like, get out of there and break that up, because you'll be less, like, I guess, bored easily, and you're around kind of humans. The same kind of thing exists for inspiration as well. I'm a big coffee shop guy. I like to go hang out and do work or whatever. I've always really liked that. The vibe is good. And I also am just very, like, inspired to work on things rather than just sit there and, like, scroll TikTok or whatever. So just getting out of the, like, everyday monotony, I think, is important. Very important.
That's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I think, like, another thing, like, especially if you're traveling somewhere, it's like, why would you not bring a camera?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Just because, like, you're going to be seeing new things. So you might as well
Mhm.
shoot them.
Mhm.
You know, that's how I always feel about
Well,
it.
and I think that's just because like we are creators anyways. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
like how you said Sydney would always rather like listen to the song and just like not think about anything like that. The reason why you're thinking like, man, this goes at the beginning with drone shot. The reason that you're thinking that is because you want to make that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She's not thinking, you know what I'm going to do whenever I get home? I'm going to learn how to fly a drone.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's just a different way that you think about things. But I agree with you totally.
Yeah.
I always have my camera with me all the time. Always. Pretty
Definitely.
much. Yeah.
So what's next? What's next on your list?
We can go into personal inspirations next. I want to end with impacts, I think.
Well, I already went through my personal inspirations.
Okay. I pretty much only have a little bit more under the like lifestyle. I've already talked about it a little bit. So like I talked about having creative inspirations. There's a ton of those. Mine personally like rotate and vary a ton as far as like actual individual creators or people that I'm actively watching and stuff like that. For the lifestyle side of it, I look at inspiration. And when I say lifestyle, I just mean like basically everything that's not creative, like school, like work, like the gym, like whatever. What I have written down is people who have been through it. And so what that means basically is, like I said, I've been listening to a lot of Rogan. There's so many people, we've talked about this a little bit already. So many people have been through so many like super serious things in their life. And that will inspire you to get over the little things that happen in your life by listening to somebody who's like done some like been through Navy SEAL training or whatever. So if you want perspective on the world, obviously I recommend Rogan, but everybody knows that already. But there's also just a lot of really interesting people, and it will inspire you to just understand that whatever you're going through in like your life, I guess, that it is not the end of the world. Like there's worse things that could be happening. And like that mentality will inspire you to, I think, overcome the like little problems in your day-to-day life. Because like you could be at Navy SEAL training right now, carrying boats through knee-deep water. That doesn't sound like very much fun.
Not to me.
Not to me either. That's pretty much all for my personals. I kind of covered everything there. So next what I have is impacts.
Okay.
Of inspiration. Do you have something similar to that?
I don't have, but I'll
piggyback
sure. off you.
So I really only have two things. I have a point and I have a quote. And so the impacts that inspiration have on your life is, this first one that I have is inspiration leads to motivation. So what that means basically is whenever you're inspired to do anything, that's kind of like the spark is how I look at it, at least. Like whenever you're inspired to go to the gym for the first time, boom, spark. After that, it's your job to figure out how you get motivated in that. This podcast is not about that because we could go on for hours and hours and hours about motivation. We won't do that in this podcast, maybe later, but in order to start doing anything, you have to be inspired to do it. This podcast came about because we were inspired to talk into a microphone, and here we are, right? Your Halloween video was an idea that you had in here. You were inspired from it somewhere, boom, and then we made the video, right?
Yeah.
So that is how that kind of works. Now, it doesn't directly correlate. You don't just get inspired and then automatically you become motivated for the rest of your life. It's not how it works, but inspiration does lead to motivation, especially if you enjoy doing whatever you were inspired to do in the first place. Now, this quote, I don't remember actually where I heard it, but it's really good, and it leans into the creative side of things, which I feel like inspiration kind of does anyways, but I thought it was really good. I thought it was worth reading. So the quote is, "Working only when inspired makes you a hobbyist. Working no matter what makes you a professional." And I was like, oh, holy crap. Yeah, so basically what that means is we can think about it in this kind of world. This is, I think, is really interesting for us. Is basically what that would mean is that would mean that we only make a podcast whenever we have like an idea that we're like, man, that inspired me.
Yeah.
Think about how many times that we've had that ever in the podcast.
Not very many.
Maybe like 8 times.
Yeah.
Maybe. That would mean that we would make 8 podcasts.
Yeah.
Instead of almost 40. Or I guess almost 50.
Yeah.
Think about how crazy that is.
49 episodes today.
Think about how crazy that is. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
But instead of not letting inspiration only drive us, it kind of makes us a pro, if you will. Because we don't just work whenever we're inspired to work. That's interesting.
That's huge. I've never thought about it like that before. But that is definitely a factual statement.
It applies to everything too, because think about professional athletes.
Yeah.
You think every single day they want to go out there and play?
Right.
Every day they want to go out there and practice? No.
Right.
They've been practicing for 20 years.
Yeah, they don't want to no more.
Not every day. Maybe some days, but not every day. but because they go no matter what, it makes them a professional.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. So that can definitely be applied to everything. But I thought that was really interesting. I thought that it led really well with this podcast. And I think that we owned it.
I think so too.
Sweet. That's everything that I have, yeah?
Yeah.
That's everything you have as well?
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much for listening. Before we close it off here, I want to say I hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving, everybody. I forgot that the last time we did a full show, it also came out after Thanksgiving. So sorry for the redundancy, but it's staying in. So
yeah, we don't cut anything.
We don't cut anything out of the show. Thanks so much for listening. Welcome to the holiday season. When you're listening to this, it's like December the 2nd.
It is.
Which means it's basically Christmas.
Basically.
So, Caddy Corner will continue through the holidays. Bet you guys knew that already because we are never going to miss an upload. With that being said, I'm Austin. He's Caleb. We do this show, which is more lifestyle, informative, inspiring, if you will, type vibe, every single Friday, audio and video. So make sure to check that out. If you're already here, then you know about that. And we also do a show every Wednesday, which is called Caddy Corner After Hours. A little bit more laid back, a little bit more fun, a little bit more of a vibe. If you're into that sort of thing, it's audio only. It's every single Wednesday, and you should check it out. And if you don't, then I don't know what you're doing with your life.
I don't either.
And I think that's everything. Thank you so much again to Mikey Walnuts for your review. That was really dope. We will see you guys next week. Peace.
Later.